Hi, I wanted to explain what this is. This unusual thing is called a life map, and I learned how to do this when we were on mission in Ukraine. And it's a kind of a neat way to explain the events of your life in a chronological order that can be understood and yet not bore people. So I'm going to start in the lower left-hand corner, and you'll notice that there are a couple of those little bright spots. Those were God incidences in my life that I didn't realize at the time. But as I look back, I saw God intervening in my life. One of them was when I went to the academy, and a guy prayed with me there, which was really unusual. He actually knelt by my desk and said, "Can I?" He asked me if he could pray for me, and I said sure. And he knelt by my desk and prayed for me out loud. I was just amazed. Then the next symbol there is me getting married to Jana. Jana and I were married 10 days after graduation. And then on July 18th, 1969, I was in flight school in Pensacola, and I wanted to go fight in Vietnam. And so I was in flight school down there and learning how to fly helicopters because I wanted to fly attack helicopters. On July 18th, 1969, was the first time that I ever bent my knee and said, "Jesus, I want you to be Lord of my life." I had gone to church a lot, but I had never, ever said that to him. And that was the most significant day of my life since my birth. So that was my first birth was when I was physically born. This was the day of my second birth. That changed everything. That was the most significant thing. I cried, and it was just amazing. I went within a couple months. I was in Vietnam, and got shot down a couple times, crashed a couple times, and then came back and was involved in the Navy. And during that time, God added children to our family. The firstborn was Ben, and Ben has been a joy ever since he was born. After Ben, we adopted a little 5-year-old girl named Tammy, and then a couple of years after Tammy came to live with us, Sarah was born. Meanwhile, I was still in the Navy, and we moved from Pensacola to Virginia Beach, then out to Guam in the middle of the Pacific. From there, we got to go all over the Middle East, or all over the Eastern, what you call it, the Orient. Out there, and we went to Japan, Korea, and the Philippines, and all kinds of islands in that area, Palau and the Marshall Islands and Saipan and places like that. The Navy sent me back to get my master's degree in Jacksonville, and it was during the first couple months back here that Jana decided that she had had enough of this family stuff, and she left, and she was just gone. And so the kids and I lived together for 5 years. I was a single dad. And you can see we're all laying on the floor there crying. That was a big deal. And it wasn't until one day when we were just completely defeated that God brought about an event which changed everything. Without her asking, we got down on the floor and we prayed, and we actually asked God to help us forgive Mom without her asking. And so we got down on the floor and did that, and it was just amazing, the change. We actually became a little unit of 4 people. Meanwhile, I was still in college. The Navy had sent me there, getting my master's. And so I met this woman named Paige, and joined Christian Family Chapel, which is the church we're still members of. And on April 4th, 1987, Paige and I were married, and that was just a tremendous day in my life. She is God's gift. She's the proof that God is a God of second chances. Shortly thereafter, in '88, I got out of the Navy and started my own business called Consultech, and I was a computer software training business, and that went on for 6 years. It was quite profitable, and I sold it because I got recruited by a small company called America Online, and that was the first time I actually had a chance to see what industry was really like. They couldn't pay me a lot of money. They paid me less than $50K because they couldn't afford me, but they did pay me in stock. which I later found out was a big deal. That was also the first time I went on a missions trip, and that's the Haitian flag there. Uh, I went back to school and started back to get a second master's degree in computer science because America Online was a computer company. And then I cashed all my stock out and no longer had to work. So I finished up my second master's in computer science and went to work as a prof at Florida State College, Jacksonville campus, and really had a ministry among the students and faculty there. That was a fun 15 years. Got to go to Brazil and a lot of trips to Ukraine, mainly because they had a need for people to teach teachers how to teach. And so we had a curriculum which included how to become a Christian, how to commit your life to Christ, and what the gospel really was, that Jesus was the Son of God, or is the Son of God, came down on earth, lived the perfect life, died on the cross for my sins, was raised from the dead, and is alive today. And all I need to do is place faith in him, and I can partake in his price paying. So we did that under the auspices of Cru, which is the new name for Campus Crusade. Then we went out to Colorado State University and really enjoyed a tremendous worship time, probably the highest point of worship in my life. It was just amazing. That was a conference with Crusade. Then I retired from the school at 70, and I decided not to retire, but to retool, and so I retooled into two areas. I teach Walk Through the Bible, which is a fabulous system of memorizing the Old Testament in chronological order in a way that you can never forget it, and it takes me about 5 hours to teach people that. And you can usually share that with your friends in about 3.5 minutes. It's just extraordinary. It's an extraordinary teaching method. So I do that on a regular basis, probably 5 to 6 times a year at different churches all around Florida and Georgia. And I also then, just by kind of accident, by one step at a time, was led to become certified with the Association of Certified Biblical Counseling. And that's been a tremendous growth for me, because I go into that counseling room not having any answers at all. And I was just constantly in prayer, and then God gives me things to say. And it's not that I don't have, I've got 3 years worth of training in counseling, but it's not psychological counseling, it's biblical counseling, which is the whole premise is that the God who made us is the God who can fix us. And by relating to him, then things begin to fall in perspective. It's caused me to do a lot of research and get some courses in biblical worldview and all kinds of stuff. It's really been fabulous. Anyway, I thought I would show you some pictures that of our family. This is our family, and you'll notice it's kind of big. There are a lot of kids. One of the reasons is because our son still hasn't had enough of kids yet, and so he's a foster family, and he has always got new kids with him, and his ministry is to those kids, and they come badly broken, and in many cases I work with the kids in counseling to help them see just what Christ can do. So it's an amazing life. We are busier now than we've ever been before. Couldn't fit a job back in if we had to. And I just kind of wanted to show you what journey God has had me on. You notice that there are verses along this line. It starts off with Psalm 139:16, which says, okay, from the very beginning, before I was born, God knew what would happen. And, my emails all close with the little phrase, everything that should have happened did. That's the reason why. Then you notice Galatians 2:20 and John 15:16. Those have to do with sacrificing myself, which I did not do really well, and that's why Jana left. 1 Peter 1:7 has to do with God and the way he teaches us to grow. He's made us dependent upon him. We're creatures of dependence and creatures of worship. And that is a big deal. That's a big deal. I had to learn that the hard way. And then John 17:3, he's completed the work that he came to do by discipling. And then my life verse is Lamentations 3:22 and 23. The Lord's loving kindnesses indeed never cease, for his compassions never fail. They are new every morning. Great is thy faithfulness. And it's hard to sing. It's hard not to sing "Great is thy faithfulness" when I say that verse. Anyway, I thought you might enjoy this. Anybody who knows me knows that I don't do things halfway, and I never have. And this is an easy way to show you that if you ask a teaspoonful of question, you get a dump truck full of answer. So I hope you enjoy this. I really do hope that you understand how God has worked in my life through this entire span. And I am really, really grateful and looking forward to meeting him face to face as soon as I can get out of this world. Bye for now.